what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life180. Welcome back to the Debt Management Masterclass, where today we're talking about the two different types of debt. Now, this isn't going to be like most different types of debt videos that you've probably ever seen if you've seen them before. Most people talk about different types of debt in the terms of good and bad, or toxic or healthy debt, or, like, it is what it is. There's a lot of people that get into that, and I just don't like the idea of classifying or putting values on debt, like good or bad, because to me, who am I to associate what's good or bad for you? It's just, I'm not that guy. I just don't believe we can look at it in terms, and good or bad compared to what, right? Like what's the metric that we're associating that to? And who are you? What are your skills? What do you understand? Like, what could be good debt for me might be bad debt for you, because you don't have the same skills and gifts and abilities that I have, and vice versa, right? Like, you may be able to utilize things in a different way than I could. So the debt that you might use that would be healthy debt for you in that context might not be healthy for me, right? And so I'm not going to say good or bad. What I want to sit and talk about in this video is go through and really dial in what are your goals and objectives, and how do you utilize debt as a resource for you to increase your cash flow to get to your goals and objectives faster. Maybe for you, you come to the end of this whole process and you say, well, debt still isn't for me. I don't want to do debt, because all debt is leverage. And whenever you take leverage or utilize leverage with any kind of debt, it injects more risk into the equation. There's no way around it. And so I'm not sitting here telling you to take debt on to accomplish your goals, but I do believe that you having a clear understanding of how implementing and leveraging and utilizing and maximizing and optimizing your debt, how you do that, and how you could potentially do it, once you understand the rules of the game, then you can make a more informed decision. And then as you grow and evolve and become somebody different, well, then that's what it's all about, right? Like, I just believe that you are where you are in life because of who you are in life. And if you want to be able to reach your goals, you need to become more. Right? And so that said, let's just hop to the board here. We're going to get into this. So rather than calling it good or bad or healthy or unhealthy or anything of that nature, I have chosen to really coin this idea of productive versus consumption debt, right? Like, there's productive debt that you can utilize, right? And then there's consumption debt, and the consumption debt is obviously the bad side. So let's talk about productive debt for a minute. What is productive debt? Basically, productive debt will generate cash flow. Okay? So what do I mean by this? So if I could borrow at 5% debt, if I could borrow that and I could 6% earnings on that, then I have a 1%, which is ultimately a 20% difference, right? Like, because a 1% of 5% is 20%. So I have a 20% potential return on this debt, keeping it really simple. Now, does it work exactly that way? No, not necessarily. It depends on the terms of the debt and all that stuff. We're going to get there in a minute, in a while as we go through this course. But the bottom line is, like, what are different productive debts that we could use, right? Like, so you could use it for real estate, because real estate, if you do it the right way, should produce cash flow. You could use it for business loans. You could utilize it for a lot of different areas. I don't care if you're looking to, finance a business. If you're, personal development is a big one, right? Learn a new skill, learn a new trade, get a new certificate, increase your earning potential, right? That's what this is about. Increase your earning potential. Your greatest need in life is more free and clear cash flow to be successful and to reach your goals faster. If you can increase your ability to earn more cash flow, that's what it's all about. Now, that said, obviously we have this situation here. If you can get 5% debt and earn 6%, right? Well, we have this spread here that is an increase in cash flow. The challenge is, we're earning this. You have to decide, and we're going to go through this course, and you're going to understand more as we go through it. What does this number need to be to make the risk worth it? Because anytime you take on a 5% debt note with something, depending on how that debt is secured and all these different things, you have to understand how that's going to impact you potentially negatively as time goes on, because that 5% does inject an element of risk into the equation. Not all risk is bad. You're not going to achieve financial success and big financial results in your life without taking some risk on. Unfortunately, most people think of, I'm going to take risk in the stock market. That is their idea. I'm going to go out and I'm going to invest, and there's risk when I invest. I would rather take risks in myself in learning how to manage debt effectively than go take and invest money in the market, not understanding the rules of the game in the market effectively, which most people don't. They just give their money to a money manager and think that, they're going to be able to help them manage that, and they don't take responsibility for their own lives. So that's why I think when we talk about, like I said in the last video, understanding this, how to manage that debt here is going to be play a big role in you reaching your financial goals. So now when we get to consumption debt, like consumption debt is obviously, it doesn't generate cash flow. It reduces cash flow. Why does it reduce cash flow? Because now you've used it. It's not increasing cash flow. You've used it on something that's more consumption in nature. There's a lifestyle expense. This could be a car, a vacation, a boat, like anything of this nature that you would use. A credit card, if you said, I'm going to live my lifestyle. I mean, how many people do you know that have used credit cards in their world and they don't pay it off every month? And so now all of a sudden they've got a $10,000 credit card balance and a $400 monthly minimum payment on that credit card balance, and they're having a hard time paying it down. Well, ultimately that's probably $200 a month in negative cash flow, because of this consumption debt, because of the way that you manage your life, right? And so understanding how this debt works for you is so important, and at the same time, there are ways that you can increase efficiency, right? And in a later video, we're going to go through, there are some things that we do with these lifestyle expenses that are decisions that you're going to make anyway. So one of the things that we're going to talk about later is that when we do any of these things, if they're decisions that we're going to make anyway, how do we increase the efficiency and recapture that money, right? That'll be the last video. So I really encourage you to stay and go through all this, because there are certain things that we're gonna have from a lifestyle perspective that are really important. They're vital for us to understand. Like, I am gonna buy cars on a regular basis. Now, the car that you buy, you got to make sure that it's the right price point and it fits your financial kind of parameters that you're dealing with. But you're going to buy cars. You're going to take vacations. I don't know that you're going to buy a boat necessarily. Maybe you're going to buy a boat. Maybe you buy other toys that bring you happiness. I love my Jeep. I love my camper trailers. I love, doing things of that nature. I'm not a boat guy. My business partner, Dan, is a boat guy. He loves boats, but understanding credit cards can be a really bad thing, or they can be a really, really wildly benefit thing. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a couple minutes. But as we go through this, there are things that we need to take into consideration, right? Like as we go through this is like, we talk about productive debt. Now we got to start talking about, all right, from a productive debt perspective, we need to understand, and I know that I said this for a moment, but we need to understand that as we use debt as leverage, we take on more risk. It equals more risk, okay? Now, what's the trade-off? It's always a trade-off. We can take on more risk, but we can accomplish our goals faster if we do so, right? Now, the thing is, as we go through this, that we need to understand that you have to do things in a way that protects yourself. I'm all about utilizing debt as leverage to create success, but there's an important thing when it comes to financial structure, okay? Now, as we go through and we think about what are we going to be doing, and when is it appropriate for me to actually use leverage? the biggest mistake that I see people make when it comes to using leverage in debt is that they don't have their financial structure set up properly, okay? And so what I want to do here is I want to talk about the 8 factors to consider when using leverage or debt. Okay? And so number 1, the first one is, what's your current financial structure? Current financial structure is everything. What do I mean by that? I mean, how much money do you have saved? What's your emergency fund built up at? And what's your opportunity fund look like? This is a big area where I believe people need to run to walk. Go slow to go fast. This is a principle that you need to understand. And so this is where I say, and this is, even though I'm not a huge fan of him, it's one of the things Grant Cardone says that I love, is that you have to be willing to save, but save with the intent of investing. So by saving money and building your financial foundation of an emergency fund and an opportunity fund, that puts you in a position, once those things are built, I talk about this, I talk about the LIFE180 financial pyramid. I talk about this a lot. I'm not going to go into great detail, but we talk about safe, medium, and high risk assets, right? And so as we start building our financial safety, this is our opportunity fund, our insurances, our emergency funds, so on and so forth, and we utilize a good sub-foundation. This would be, the foundation of everything would be our cash flow, right? And at the end of the day, we have to have better cash flow to start saving for emergency funds. Once we've got this built, then we can start looking at medium risk investments and higher risk investments. But the problem is most people come and they don't build their safety. They start risking too much too soon, going out and leveraging too much. And because they don't have any money saved, when they feel like they're doing well, they get over leveraged too quick. The market goes down, they lose some assets, things get squirrely in the economy, and what happens is their whole financial world is built on this one little point of instability, and because they don't have a good foundation here, their whole world falls over, and they maybe even have success for 10 years or so, but then they got to start over, and that becomes a problem. And the reality is the market is cyclical. It's not linear. It doesn't just go up. And that's one of the things I think people understand is that, we got to understand the idea of financial structure. So before we start considering using leverage, we got to understand and realize that we have to put our financial structure in place first. And then and that's the big one. And now we're going to get a little bit more technical. So then it's like, all right, what are the interest rates versus what I can earn, right? That's important. What are the loan terms? What are the loan terms in the loan? Like a mortgage, is it 30 years? Are there balloon payments in the loan? 4, total volume of interest. This is really important. One of the things is a lot of times people will try to avoid paying interest because of this total volume of interest, and they'll say, oh my gosh, like I want to pay my house off faster because I know I can save $200,000 in interest expense, right? So they want to do that. But one of the key concepts that I want people to understand is that, and I'm going to write this here, is you finance everything. Everything in life. You either self-finance or you use leverage, okay? What do I mean by this? Self-finance. Self-finance would be saying, all right, we use leverage. I'm going to use a mortgage as an example. I'm going to go take a mortgage out. I'm going to put 20% down on my house. That's what my kind of skin in the game in buying that house is. I'm going to get a mortgage. Let's say I bought a $500,000 house. I'm going to put $100,000 down. I'm going to finance $400,000. And let's say I have a term of a mortgage that would cost me $200,000 of interest, right? So the idea of like, I want to pay that down faster so I can avoid this expense and avoid the financing costs, right? By using that leverage of the bank's money. Well, the reality is, if I were to pay cash for that house, I would eliminate, if I would pay cash, I would eliminate this $200,000 altogether, because by paying cash, I think I avoid that expense. But the reality is I have self-financing that I'm doing, but because by paying cash, I lose the ability to earn interest on that $500,000. Let's say I could do it. I might avoid $200,000, but what's the opportunity cost by paying cash for this? If I could just earn, say, 4%, which is really conservative, on that $500,000 over a period of time, what does that look like over the terms of the loan? And if at any point in time that $500,000 would grow to more than the $200,000 of interest expense, well, that's what we're talking about when it comes to financial efficiency. And so understanding how your money can grow compared to what the volume of interest is paid throughout that term is going to help you come to a more educated, more aligned financial decision for you and your goals and objectives. That's where financial efficiency comes in. Is it a fixed versus variable rate, right? A lot of people are getting hit with rising interest rates on mortgages that they had when maybe they got a variable rate and rates were at 2.5%, 3%, and now they're 8% on a lot of those loans. That's a really bad. So what is the impact? What would be the potential impact on rising rates? On your cash flow. I'm going to write CF for cash flow, right? So what would be the impact of that on your cash flow? What are alternative funding options? Really do the research and figure out what are your alternative funding options, and what are things that you can do to control the cost of capital. And we're going to get through this later because this is a huge deal because there's always a cost of capital, period. Wherever you get this cost of capital is going to be key. I believe that you understanding this idea of controlling the cost of capital and understanding opportunity cost and understanding the fact that you finance everything you do in life, these two concepts together, and if you could understand that you finance everything in life, whether you self-finance it through paying cash or you use a bank or any other form of leverage, and that there's also, no matter what, in all these interest rate environments that we live in, the rates are going to go up, they're going to come down, the market is cyclical, that's the way it goes, the economy goes up and down, the stock market goes up and down, real estate prices go up and down, most things because of inflation trend up in the long run. But if we could understand that, if we can learn how to play this game where in every environment when rates are going up or down, that we have a mechanism in place where we can control the cost of capital and we can have a situation where we understand how we finance everything. These two things together are going to put us in a situation where we can make far better educated decisions for ourselves. Now, the only other thing I want to cover in this video is credit cards, because it is a type of debt that most people either love or hate. I find it's a very polarizing topic, okay? People love or hate the idea of credit cards. People like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman will tell you that you're too stupid to manage it. But the bottom line is, when it comes to credit cards, I'm a huge fan of them when you utilize them properly. Once again, I'm going to speak to you like you're a capable, responsible human being that's able to change your habits and that's able to implement discipline and start putting in place rules that can get you there. So what are the benefits? This is why I love credit cards, okay? Benefits of them, points and rewards. I'll tell you this, I just booked a flight for my family, going from the DR back to Arizona for the holidays, and it was like one-way tickets for my family of 5 was like $2,100. I didn't have to come out of pocket for anything. Why? Because I was able to use my points to be able to pay for those tickets. That is $2,200 of free money for me. How much interest have I paid on my credit cards this year? I'll tell you, 0. I've paid 0 in interest on my credit cards this year, but by the nature of me utilizing my credit cards, because I pay them off every single month, I was able to pay for that flight completely covered just with points, right? So the other reasons I love credit cards, because you get discounts and perks. I have perks when I'm traveling. We get the luxury lounges, we get discounts with my American Express Platinum card. You get discounts in different places. We get 5% back in points with a lot of our purchases that we make, and that's just free money. That's a return, because if I'm gonna spend that money anyway, to me, this is where financial efficiency gets really good. Once again, now we're building credit by managing our card balances, paying them off every month, showing that we know how to manage it. It builds our credit score. When we build our credit score, if we can get our credit score to 740 plus, now we're able to get the best rates possible. So when we go to buy our car, when we go to buy a house, when we go to do investments, when we need a business loan or SBA loan or anything like that, we're gonna qualify for the best rates possible that are gonna ultimately put us in a situation where our financial efficiency is going to be better off. It's going to give us more options to play the game at a higher level, right? That's really what it comes down to, right? And then the other thing I would say is consumer protection. When you pay with a debit card, a lot of times if you pay for something and you make a bad decision, or maybe you get scammed a little bit, which obviously doesn't happen often, but if it happens, typically it's a big deal when it happens. You're not able to do a chargeback, you're not able to file with any kind of protections or against fraud or anything like that for you. With credit cards, you have these really good consumer protections in place, and then a lot of them will allow you to do expense tracking, which, it can be beneficial, right? So those are what I would consider the benefits of it. The risks of credit card is not paying it, right? Like, so falling into this interest accumulation trap, right? So I'll say the risks. Interest accumulation. Falling into a situation where you don't pay it off every month. If you don't pay off your credit cards every month, you're gonna have a problem, because that money will compound against you, right? And it can be just a cash flow drain if you do that. It can have a negative credit score impact. If you allow your balances to get more than 30% of total available credit, it can actually drop your score, okay? So you need to make sure that your total amount that you use and leverage on your credit cards is 30% or less of what your total available balance is on a monthly basis. Otherwise, your credit score can go down. Now, there are going to be times, because of investments and business and so on and so forth, that 30% is you need to go above that threshold. You need to carry a balance for a month. And if that's the case, that's okay. I'm not saying don't ever do it. I'm saying that it's going to come at a cost, and you need to be able to weigh, is that cost worth the reward on the other side? And that, once again, it's not me telling you what's good or bad. It's about you understanding how the game works and you making the best decisions for yourself, right? That's what it comes down to. The worst thing that I see, and this is probably why Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman hate these things, is spending temptation. Okay? Spending temptation with credit cards is a real problem. If you got a $20,000 credit card balance, or credit card limit, I should say, you need to understand that you don't just have $20,000 to go spend. A lot of people lack discipline, they lack planning because they got a credit card maybe, and the credit card company gives them a balance and they have no specific intent on how they plan to use that card. Well, if you understand going in that this credit card is a tool to help you reach your goals, and you want to leverage all of these benefits, right, that come along with it, and that's going to help you get to where you want to be. And maybe you say, hey, listen, I'm not going to take vacations, I'm not going to do these things until I've built enough points and rewards to be able to cover said vacation. That's a way that you can manage it, right? I would run as much of my life through my cards as possible, pay them off every single month, and not pay for big, lavish, expensive things above and beyond it. If I have a $20,000 credit limit, I'm going to try to keep $6,000 or less, that's 30%, on my card and pay it down every single month. That way I don't have a running balance on it. At the end of the day, the best practice is to emphasize paying off the full balance monthly to avoid that interest, and set up auto payments, do things like that to protect yourself. So the way I look at it, and this is how I make any decision in life, if you watch my videos when it comes to investing or anything of that nature in the past, I always look through the lens of what's the upside, what's the downside, can I live with the downside? Understanding these different types of debts, the productive versus consumption debt, understanding the different tools of debt that are available to you, whether it's a mortgage or whether it's credit cards or SBA loan or anything in between, private money, whatever, you gotta understand all the terms, you gotta understand the rules of the game, how it impacts you, and ultimately it all comes down to cash flow and all comes down to risk, and are you ready? I think one of the most important things that you gotta take away from this video is that financial structure component, right? When we go through the list here of these 8 things, this the financial structure, getting your emergency fund and opportunity fund in place, and understanding how the financial pyramid, the Life 180 pyramid, works in context to you having that solid foundation that allows you to go out and be ready to take on risk. I always say go slow to go fast, because sometimes building that foundation takes a little longer than we want it to, but if you have it, now that puts you in a position where you can be an actual investor, right? And if you are trying to do like this pyramid here, this one right there, that is what I would say, if you do this right and you build your foundation, you get your emergency fund, you get your opportunity fund built, and you focused on cash flow, now you're an investor. If you focus on the right one, you may feel like you're doing well at first because you're able to get leverage and you're feeling like you're getting ahead of the game, but you're really still just speculating because you don't have a foundation to back yourself up. And those are the people, that's the group of people that gets hurt the most when we go through economic downturns, right? You feel really good. I experienced it a lot with a lot of people in my life in 2008. I know a lot of people even experienced it in 2020 during the pandemic. And I want to show you, if you focus on building your financial structure properly, you're going to feel like maybe you're missing out a little bit, but ultimately that's also going to put you in a position when those people struggle because of financial downturn, because you have access to capital and your financial structure is proper, it's going to open up more opportunity for you. Once again, that's where you're going to be able to utilize debt to expand and bring on productive debt versus going into the consumption. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it helps. If you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified every time I launch a new video. Thank you for tuning into the Debt Management Masterclass. The next video we're going to be talking about is going to be about cash flow indexing, which is going to show you how to prioritize what debt is kind of productive and helping you get towards where you want to go on a cash flow basis versus detrimental to you achieving your goals. So that's it. Till next video. Have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon. Later.